Welcome to Salon Talks. I'm Mary Elizabeth Williams. And if you have ever fantasized about uprooting your life and starting fresh somewhere completely different, which is what I do every minute. Certainly, I thought of it when I got off the subway this morning. You will understand the premise of the new ABC series, Bless This Mess, co-created by New Girl's Liz Merriweather, huge fan. And our guest here, the beautiful Lake Bell. Hey. The show has been called the first promising network sitcom of the year by Time, because I Googled it. Lake is also, she's a co-star, she's a co-producer, she directed and co-wrote the pilot. You also know her from everything. Children's Hospital's No Strings Attached, Man Up, which I love, In a World, I also love, I Do Until I Don't, and the last two Wet Hot American Summer movies. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention, you also know her voice from Secret Life of Pets and
Chloe.
BoJack Horseman, the former Mrs. Peanut Butter.
Yeah,
that is huge.
You know all of the things.
I do know all of the things. Welcome.
Thank you.
So let's talk about this show. I am so excited that this is being hailed as the first promising show of the year, and that it is getting the kind of attention and positive reinforcement that it needs, because it feels like this is a good moment for a show like this.
It is. I think, that was a huge part of, when Liz Merriweather and I set out to write this show, we were really, we were in a space where God, the way that you like to express yourself comedically and the way that I like to express myself comedically is definitely in the ground, in the territory of just kind spirit, and not really joking at anyone else's expense, but self-deprecating and I think we need to have a sense of humor about ourselves in general, just for a long life and longevity, but also in a time where the country, you can't really argue that we're not somewhat divided. And I feel like this show by no means is going to cure the country of all.
Are you going to fix America?
We're going to fix America. No, it's okay. But what we are hoping to do is set out to give definitely a sweet and kind flavor of comedy where we all can align in just good core values, and we can be aligned in our values and culturally be in totally political different spaces. We can believe in culturally different things and yet be aligned in just wanting to help one another when we're down. So it's very inclusive. It is obviously about a quasi-hipster couple from New York City who drop everything and move to a small town with a farm in Nebraska, and they think they're going to become farmers because they're looking for a simpler romantic life. And of course they get there and it's very complicated, and farming is something that is deeply rooted in education, and it's a very hyper learned skill set that you have to have in order to be a successful farmer. And we touch on that on the show. So yeah,
it's not just I saw some people raising
I
bees
on some stuff.
Yeah, and people have chicken coops. I can do this.
I can do this.
I can run a farm.
Yeah, no,
right?
It's not. And there's definitely a really fun but rude awakening that they get.
And it feels like that is so important, because we are in this incredibly polarized time right now.
Yeah.
And this is a show that's about red states, blue states, people from very different walks of life, and just we can all laugh at ourselves.
Totally. And listen, I'm fully aware that I am personally a Manhattanite, but our writer's room, including our showrunner Liz Merriweather, she is from Michigan, and our writer's room is 90% peppered with people from the center of this country. So you have Ohio, Minnesota, representing Nebraska writer, this woman, Barbie Adler from Nebraska, and, then Texas and, Tennessee and all these different states that there's one Jew from New York in the writer's room, which, by the way, is extremely unique. Usually it's And
I heard that was a big part of how Pam Grier came on board.
Yes, absolutely. Because Pam Grier, who's amazing and in the show, she's sort of the heart of the town, and she just brings such love and life to the show. It's unbelievable. She's a legend. But so Pam Grier, actual Pam Grier, was very connected to this story and loved this world because she is born and raised in Wyoming and Colorado and lives currently, as we speak right now, is on her farm in and ranch in Colorado, and she does equine therapy for special needs kids, and she rehabilitates horses, that have been hurting. I mean, it's just, she's incredible. So in the show, she wears her work gloves in her back pocket, and they're really hers. They're not wardrobe. So they are worn in because she actually deals with hay and whatnot.
Oh my God, that's incredible.
So everybody involved is pretty authentic. I mean, even in our cast, it's when we're casting people, we really think about, we put a lot of consideration, and even the ancillary characters as well, and the characters that pepper the series regulars. Everyone is from the Midwest or from not just coastal cities. Yeah.
Right. It's not an outsider's view. Right. Of that world. And I did hear that the state of Nebraska recently came up with a new state slogan.
They do, and this is why I love them so much. And I'm like, this is why Nebraska needs so much love and attention. There's two reasons. One is, yes, they've had a new state slogan, which is, honestly, it's not for everyone. That's their state slogan. Which is also
my life motto.
Isn't that great? It's not for everyone.
It's not for everyone.
And then the second reason why people should be aware of Nebraska right now is that they have endured some of the worst flooding you've ever, that we can imagine. I think in 50 years it's never been this bad, and they've lost so much livestock, and families are hurting, and that's why we did a PSA with Red Cross, and I was so... I'm so happy to bring some comedy and some levity to Nebraska. We just came from there, and they just need it right now. And we all related to, when Houston had the flooding, my in-laws were all there and lost their homes and businesses, and I just personally really, I just feel for them. They're hurting. And so if you can, Red Cross, it would be great if you just went on and thought, oh, I'm going to watch a show.
And then I might learn a little something,
yeah.
Right? That's very cool. You have been collaborating with Liz Merriweather for about a decade now, right? Almost a decade.
Yeah, I mean, she and I met on No Strings Attached. She wrote it, and I was in it. I kind of played a version of herself, this sort of neurotic, but very well-intentioned kind of person. And so when we finally sort of, a decade later.
And you were on New Girl. So
you're right, I was on New Girl as well.
I'll remind you of your history. You were on New Girl, you were a bartender. I'll help you out, Don't worry, I got it.
I did something kind of cheeky on New Girl.
Yeah.
I think I was naked on New Girl.
You took off your shirt at one point.
Yeah.
Not that it was memorable to me, but it was pretty great. But so you've had this collaborative relationship, but you've also been simultaneously doing all your own work, writing, producing, directing, creating all your own projects, and now you're in this collaborative space with this person who you've worked under, and now you're working together. How does that work out for you? Because I've heard you are control, you like that control of when you get to.
I do. I mean, I feel I enjoy, as a woman, I like multitasking. I think a lot of ladies like to multitask. I feel very natural in that state. I like to be doing 100 things at the same time. And in a creative space, I find it really fulfilling, to be able to, from the inside out, bring a story to life, And yes, there's a huge adjustment going from making little tiny indie movies and being the answer to all questions, to then working with large corporations and another creative comrade, and again, large corporations. That part of it is there's lots of notes, there's you have to weigh in, but in a way I kind of was I know this is going to be challenging, but I take on the challenge. It's I thought it was an interesting kind of experiment. And now, of course, now we're at series. It's less of an experiment now, just my life right now. But I have enjoyed very much working with Liz. And we've had, it's been a massive learning curve. She's a mistress of TV and really incredibly prolific. And I've been making my little indie movies, among other things, and I feel we took her sort of prowess and sharpshooter TV stuff and took my indie sensibility and kind of smushed them together and married them and then thrusted the show out into the universe. So.
And part of that was, I heard that you both are very much about walking the walk in terms of then creating opportunities for other women.
Oh yeah. Well. Oh, absolutely.
So that was part of the process of this as well.
Yes, I'm a serving board member of Women in Film, which is an organization that works really hard to provide opportunity and to support women, sort of even like mid-career, to kind of help maintain and to help nurture gender parity in our industry, because it is really important. I know there's a lot of important causes out there, but I think the way we ingest media is culture, and to change culture, which informs society globally, like I think you have to start there. So it's like women telling stories, women of color, all diversities and genders even. It's like it's important for us to kind of take a responsibility to say, especially when you're in a decision-making position, to provide opportunity. That's all. And so that, for instance, we have a way of sort of when I say provide opportunity, here's an example. Usually in large corporations and in the network system or the studio system for that matter, there's like a list of kind of, let's say, 3 guys for each job, right? And it's just these are the guys who've been doing it, these are the people who are just on that list, and it's a default. So can we get him? Oh, we can't get him? Okay, what about this guy? And those lists become just kind of, they're just standard. And so what we have to do is shake up a little bit, because in the indie space, it's a little more fluid, it's open, people are like, it's more like half and half, Mm-hmm. But, when you look at your department heads and whatnot. But in a studio space, it's like you have to work harder. You have to say, okay, if we're going to interview these 3 guys, who you guys always interview, I'm going to present 3 female options that are totally appropriate and, like, for this job. But we have to interview them too. Yeah, it's annoying. We're going to take 3 extra meetings, but we're going to do it. And it doesn't mean we have to hire one of these 3 women. It means like we're going to give parity. We're going to just have equal opportunities,
right.
Just to start shaking it up.
And normalize. And first you shake it up, and then you normalize it.
And then it's normalized.
And then it's normal. And
but
then,
like for our directors, this season we have 6 episodes, tiny, bite-sized season, and there's 6 men directors and 6 women directors. 3 male directors, 3 female directors, and that just happened. It genuinely happened because the people we interviewed, and that's just how it rolled out. Obviously, Liz and I are 2 female creators. We have 4 female producers, in total, and it's one of those things where we just, because of the nature of interviewing for department heads, like half and half, we ended up with like a very equal opportunity kind of set.
It's really incredible.
Yeah.
It's really cool. It's cool when someone gets a little bit of power and then immediately starts thinking, how can we leverage this mm-hmm. to create more opportunities for other people? And one of the things that was, I've heard you say, changed your career 1,000% was In a World.
Yes.
Which I love so much, which is a great movie. For anyone who hasn't seen it, your character in it is a voiceover performer. Yes, there it is.
That's right.
There it is.
They're telling us.
Oh, we got to wrap now. All right, I'm just going to ask you one thing about it. So do you feel that women's voices are listened to in the same way that men's voices are, literally on a sound level?
Well, there's I'm not an expert, of course, but I am definitely an observer, an educated observer, and I would say that, yes, people ingest and, female voices differently than male voices, and I think that's why, certain affectations come alive in our voices, both male and female. Like a lot of men lower their voices to be taken more seriously. Some women, obviously, upscale their voices to be thought of as more sort of, young and virile or something, so there's all kinds of adjustments that I think we make on a daily basis. But ultimately, yes, I think that they are adjusted differently, and hopefully that will start to, iron out.
I love it. Fantastic. Lake, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
This show, once again, is called Bless This Mess.
Bless this mess.
This mess is blessed. Thank you,
you.
Lake.